Our presenters will be Joel and Jeanne, and they will walk you through low code, high empowerment, and take it away, guys.
Thank you. So, get to my first slide here. We are the low-code solutions team from Do It. The solution that we are using as a campus solution is Betty Blocks. It is a company from the Netherlands, and that is kind of the solution that we've chosen. And so I'm going to lead you a little bit about it and a little bit more about what we as an LCS team do and how you can get involved as well in low code here at Madison. So the first thing I want to talk about is kind of the infrastructure of Betty Blocks and how we as a team kind of do things. So one of the big things is that unlike some of the other platforms that are out there, like Google Forms, Qualtrics, MS Forms, Betty Blocks is allowed to do fully restricted data. So if you're having, FERPA data, things like that that you need to use in forms, use in places, Betty Blocks is okay for that, unlike those other solutions. And so that's one thing. All the data is encrypted at rest. Everything is good to go there. And so that's one thing that we definitely want to bring up in terms of what the infrastructure is. Also, there's no cap on users, so you don't have to worry about where the user's coming from, where you're doing it. So if you have users that are public users coming in, we can do that. If you have all internal users, you only want them there, we can do that. If for some reason you have other schools that are coming in, we can also do that as well. So it's pretty open as far as what we can do, who you can build apps for, and where they can be coming from. Next, let's see, tools. So one of the big things about Betty Blocks, the reason we picked it is it has a it's very API first. So if you have an API, we can pretty much connect to it, integrate with it, and you can use that to build apps with. So currently we're working on integrations with Person API, the Chaos API for student data. We're also will be rolling out things for the new HR API and the Finance API as well. So all the major enterprise APIs that are out there for, Workday related things and ATP related things, we're going to have those available in Betty Blocks for you to be able to build against and be able to pull your data and do that sort of thing. One of the other things we also have is we are actually just finished and just started to do kind of road testing is a quick form builder. Thanks to our friends at LNS for helping us go through that and build that out. But basically it allows you to, as a non-technical person, build a form, take that data, and then export it out or do things with that, which normally can't be done in Betty Blocks. Betty Blocks is definitely more of a low-code application development platform. So it's not like Microsoft Form Builder or Google Forms where you're just building something quick and it does all the data stuff for you. It does all the, if you're thinking about like normal application building where you have a controller, a model, and a view, Betty Blocks has all that stuff too. Whereas the other ones don't really have that. So you can do a lot more in the back end of it than other solutions. The other thing that we have going for us is in our default theme, much like some other teams that do it, we have pre-built in UW theme. We have pre-built SSO authentication and also with full support for manifest. So if you're doing manifest for authorization stuff, we fully support that for your different roles. As well, we also have full email support. So we are using the mail relay, so you can safely send email from Betty Blocks back out without, ending up in a bunch of people's junk filters. Then moving on, we also have a bunch of different custom components that we're building out. We don't have quite a bit yet. Most of it's built around like someone comes with a use case. We said, oh, that's a good use case. We should build that out for a bunch of people. So one of the ones that we have out now we have one for Google Analytics. So if you want to figure out where people are using your app, how they're using it, you can use Google Analytics to do that. Obviously, there's GDPR things you have to worry about, but we do have a support for that. As well, we also have a signature capture capability. So if you need somebody to sign a form or someone needs you want initials on something, we have the ability to capture that in Betty Blocks, save it into your database, and you can recall that back out as you need to. So those are just some examples of some of the things we have. All right. All right. Slide two. So one of the big things about Betty Blocks is that because it is a low-code application development platform, it does require some training. It is not for what you might be cloned citizen developers, that is not the case. We're not advertising it as that, and it is not that. So what this is for people who have some technical capability, who kind of understand how things, at least from a technical level, might be doing. But we have a fully supported and built out training platform. We host it sort of with our vendor as well, but we have a bunch of extra things that we add on top of it to kind of give it more UW flavor, things that you would actually be doing, from in UW things where there's email or SSO, those sort of things. We walk you through that, and we have a whole training course in Canvas for that, and able to walk you through it. We also have office hours and dedicated community just for developers for our platform. We also have office hours twice a week, so if you need help, you get lost, you have questions, you can drop in our office hours, and we're happy to answer your questions. We also offer one-to-one support, so if you have a question that doesn't get answered in office hours, or it's something more sensitive that you don't want to ask in a public forum, I'm more than happy to ask a developer. One of our developers will hop on a call with you and figure out what you need. As well as we're also be able to do co-development. So if you have something where like, I think I can do this, but I'm not sure I can do this, our team has developers on staff where we can help you co-develop an application or build a piece of your application for you while you build the rest of it. That's kind of the things that our team can offer you. As well as if you're not a developer and you're like, I don't really think I can build this, our team also can do that as well. We are a non-fee based organization, so we do not charge for our development. And we have the support, we have our BAs, we have developers, and we can do full end-to-end development as well. And we also have different support models after that development's done, whether you want to support it, we need us to support it, or some mix of that, we can work with that as well. All right. Let's see. The other thing I want to talk about, I already kind of talked about data integrations, but some of the other data integrations that we are also looking at is like Canvas, Tableau, some of the other major data systems that people might want things pulled into their applications. But we're also able to, as I said before, kind of integrate with almost any data source. As long as you can provide to us, we can get it. Like we are also working, because we also work for doing a little work for UW System, or University of Wisconsin, sorry. And we can pull from Workday, or we are pulling from Workday, and we can pull back from Workday. So if there's integrations where you have that you need to do sort of thing, where you can need to drop a file somewhere or pick up a file from somewhere, we have the infrastructure to be able to do that as well. So pretty flexible in terms of what kind of integrations you can do in Betty Blocks and to pull data in and out. Let's see. As well, we do custom widget and custom component development. So if you need something custom developed, we'll either build it or have Betty Blocks help us build it. And we can kind of build almost anything that needs to be built that would be more, that's not out of the box inside of Betty Blocks. So we can do that as well. All right. So now just a couple of kind of basic use cases that we feel are kind of like the core. Is this a good fit? Is this not a good fit for Betty Blocks? Almost ate the mic there, sorry. So one of the big things we see that is a good use case for Betty Blocks is migration from PDF, paper forms, Excel file type entry into an e-form, into some sort of database that you can then open in a web page, manage, and do things with. And that's a really big use case that we've seen so far in terms of people building it themselves, as well as us building it for other people as well. Is that form, and also basic workflows where I just need to ingest some data. I need someone to say yes or no, that's a good thing, we should be doing that, approval, and then now I want to do something else with that data. And that's something that we see as a pretty good use case in Betty Blocks. The other thing we also are seeing a lot more of is sort of inventory and tracking systems, where a good example is we're building an application for FP&M to do inventory tracking. Well, actually, I guess it's for the police, not FP&M, but to doing tracking keys and tracking electronic entry. So they're looking to say, I need a request for something. I want to track where this key goes. How does this key live? Where is this key in this space? And then what happens when they finally return that key, or they don't return that key? Where is that? And then like, who are we actually giving electronic key access to? and then coming back and forth and doing that. So that's a couple of different types of use cases we're seeing in terms of pretty good use cases, but we're also seeing a bunch of other things too around the world. So I mean, I think that was pretty much a good questions there. I really talked really fast, so hopefully people have questions.
One in the chat. So I'll just read the chat question out loud. And if anybody else has questions to put in the chat, feel free and we can do this. But this is from Emily Reynolds. Would be curious to hear about how you are handling security with users having access to restricted and sensitive data if they aren't using SSO. What is your data governance process?
I'd be happy to talk about that. So we have worked with data governance extensively about our platform. We've also had a full security review from Do It Cybersecurity. And so how we're doing restricted data is that each application that needs to use restricted data on the platform also has to go through a cybersecurity review to make sure that and data governance, to make sure you should be using that data, you should have access to that data in that application, and to make sure that the way you're handling that data in that application is also compatible with the proper data governance and security guidelines. So yeah, that's kind of how we're doing it there. If there's any needs that we have, like anything that's like kind of custom or anything like that, as far as SSO, we only allow SSO. So if the application is using restricted data, we're not allowing public entry into that application currently. That would have to be through some sort of authentication and authorization pattern.
Oh, yep, I guess, yep, here you go.
All right. Connor from biochemistry. What is, say I'm a developer, but I'm interested in use this, what is like the timeline for the training process? You mentioned there was a training.
Yeah, so we have actually two offerings right now. One is fully self-guided. So you can you can say, I want to do the Canvas course, and you can literally sign up. We'll give you access. We'll give you your own training application, and then you can fully self-guide yourself. You can use as much time or as little time as it takes to get through that. We are also offering what we call cohorted training, where if you have like, we've had a couple of people where like 3 or 4 people from the same department all want to get trained at the same time. And we will bring you in a cohort, and then we will take it through about 5 weeks, where we meet like once a week, and then we hope that generally it takes about 5 or 6 hours of a week of your time to like get through the training material. But that's about what we're doing for cohorts. But if you want to do fully self-paced, you can do that too. And you know, it takes about, there's about, I want to say about 7 hours, 6 to 7 hours of video training. And then there's probably about another, probably 10 hours where you're actually going to be building the thing that you're going through the video and the lessons. So it's probably about a total of like 16, 17 hours of fully training to actually get up to speed on the platform and be able to fairly well build something. So hopefully that answers the question.
And we have some more questions in the chat from James. Are there specific decision criteria for what is a development-worthy project for the group versus things you would rather train end users to build their own solutions?
Can you repeat that?
Sure. So are there specific decision criteria for what's a development-worthy project for, I think, your group versus things you would rather train end users to do their own building?
Well, actually, our hope is that you would be able to build your own application, no matter, as long as it's a good fit for the Betty Blocks platform or for low code. If you want to build it yourself and you feel you have the technical capability to do so, we would love to empower you to do that. That's the whole purpose of our team and our platform, is to empower the Madison developers and the community at large to build their own applications, to take out that lag between, you know, having us take the time to build it and versus what you can build probably a lot faster, or, you know, not get into our backlog. So, but if it's something more complicated that you don't feel like you can build, that might be a tipping point for us to build it for you. But there's also opportunities if you feel there's parts you can build, but parts you can't build. Again, like I talked earlier, there is the opportunity for us to kind of collaborate on building those types of things.
Okay, and then one more question from M. Can this gather data from departmental Active Directory LDAP query?
Currently, no. But if that's something that's of interest to you and we can figure out how to do that and it makes sense to build it in Betty Blocks and not something else, I'd be happy to talk to you about it.
All right, well, thank you very much for that presentation. Unfortunately, we are running low on time, so I'll just point you up here to the website. It's lowcodesolutions.it.wisc.edu. Again, thanks to Joel and Jeanne for giving us a little tour of Betty Blocks and kind of showing us what it can do on a high level. So thank you.